Vikings rumors are hot right now, ladies and gentlemen. Following the Houston Texans trade, are the Minnesota Vikings trading up for a quarterback in this year's draft? Rumors are flying around, and I think it's becoming more and more likely each and every day, each and every move, that the Minnesota Vikings will trade up for a quarterback in this year's class. Now let's just dive into the trade where the Vikings did acquire another first-round pick from the Houston Texans, where they got the 23rd overall pick and another 7th rounder, and they only had to give up their 2nd rounder this year, a 2nd rounder next year, and a 6th rounder this season. So if you're just kind of looking at this, the Vikings, to trade up from 42 to 23, only needed to give up a 2nd round pick and then also swap a 6th and 7th rounder. I thought that was a great move by Kwesi. I thought he's really starting to cook up this offseason. So listen, I'm huge fan of this trade. I think it allows the Vikings a ton of flexibility to go up and get their guy. But if you guys want the Vikings to trade up for a quarterback, I'm asking for one simple thing. Just drop a like on today's video. Keep the good vibes going. Keep the good mojo going. And send Kwesi Adofo-Mensah a message here on today's show. Drop a like on today's video. See if we can get 1,000 likes. Set a record here on the channel. But Jordan Reed had this report following the Texans-Vikings trade. So this is in terms of draft pick compensation. Because a lot of you may be saying, well, why would the Vikings give up next year's 2nd round pick? Well, look at this from Jordan Reed here. He says, love the move from Kwesi. The Vikings are clearly loading up for a trade for a quarterback. They're also a Dalton Risner or KJ Osborne signing away from acquiring 2 extra 3rd round comp picks in 2025 because of the Kirk Cousins leaving, because of Danielle Hunter leaving. Giving up next year's 2nd rounder was an easy decision. So pretty much, let's just say the Vikings get those 2 comp picks right now. You're going to get 2 3rd rounders, and yes, you would have to give up your 2nd round pick, but you got a 1st round pick in this year's draft class. Another kind of tidbit on why I love this move for Minnesota. But let's kick it to Dane Brugler now, just kind of speaking on the rumors in Minnesota. Brugler is one of the best draft analysis in the game right now. He tweeted this out following the move. He says, safe guess, the first call for the Vikings is to the Patriots to offer picks number 11, number 23, and another sweetener for number 3 overall. Then it becomes a Robert Kraft decision. We also heard from Josina Anderson yesterday that the Patriots really want to target a receiver. Maybe they think if we can get 11 and 23, we can kind of get a more complete roster around whatever quarterback is starting there in New England next season. Just more ammunition on the Vikings trading up. And then also I want to kick it to this Twitter account. So this Twitter account, it's not an NFL insider. It's kind of a joke here, but they've been tweeting out a ton during NFL free agency and predicting a ton of big-time moves that has happened, and they have a pretty good hit record here. So it's pretty Ricky 213, and he said should not be surprised now after the trade with Houston, but the Vikings are now the biggest threat to get the number 3 or number 4 overall pick, and I think they'll pull this off in the next couple of weeks. Totally agree with everything he's saying. The Vikings, no doubt, are the biggest number 1 threat. But what would a potential trade look like for the Vikings? Trading up the number 3 overall. This was the trade I cooked up, and I think this is enough to get it done. But I will get to this in a second. So the trade I cooked up was the Vikings obviously sending both 1st rounders this season, 11th and 23 overall, and then also the 130th overall pick, and then a next year's 3rd round pick. So you're giving up 2 firsts, 2 thirds to jump up 8 spots. But I also will say this. Do whatever it takes to get your guy. I said it. It will probably only take 2 firsts and 2 thirds. But if it takes an extra first, do whatever it takes to land either a Drake Maye or JJ McCarthy. Let's just say the Vikings have to give up 11, 23, and a future first for next season. I would do that in a heartbeat because there is no position in all of sports that moves the needle like the quarterback position does in all of sports. Whatever it takes, go up and get your guy. And I think New England may accept that trade if you offer them legitimately 3 first-round picks, 2 in the top 25 this season, and then a first next year. I think New England hits accept on that trade. But let's just say it's not New England. Let's just say New England wants to go get their quarterback at number 3. And if the draft works out where it goes quarterback, Cardinals stay at 4 and get Marvin Harrison, and then whoever that 4th quarterback is, whether it's Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, or JJ McCarthy, maybe this is an offer they could give up for the Los Angeles Chargers. They could be giving up the number 5 overall pick, or the Vikings would get the number 5 overall pick, and then the Chargers would be getting this year's 11th overall pick and a future first. You're only jumping up 6 spots. Maybe you need to throw in a 3rd or 4th to kind of sweeten up this deal for Los Angeles. But hey, I'll tell you what, if this is the scenario, Vikings still have 2 top 25 picks this year. Still are able to keep your 23rd overall selection as well. So those are 2 potential trades. I do think the Cardinals are probably sitting in there at that 4 spot and remaining to draft Marvin Harrison. But I like both of these deals for the Vikings to pull off. But coming up here on the channel, I'm going to be diving into all 4 quarterbacks that I do believe the Vikings could draft, including maybe Vikings fans' probably favorite draft prospect right now, JJ McCarthy. But first, I do want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. If you guys head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS, we'll hook you guys up with a first deposit match up to $100. I love using Prize Picks. I use it for every single game I watch. It makes the boring games even a little bit more entertaining. And what I love, they have season-long projections. Let's just say you want to watch the entire MLB season, but you don't want to watch game to game, and you want to make some plays for the entire year. This is the lineup I'm rolling with. I'm rolling with Adolis Garcia, more on his home runs. Trey Turner, more on his stolen bases. Then Juan Soto hitting to that short right field over there in New York. I'm going to take more on 35.5 home runs for him. But make sure you guys check it out. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS to get a first deposit match up to $100. Get hooked up today. Love using Prize Picks. You guys will too. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the 4 quarterbacks that the Vikings could draft in this year's draft class. Honestly, I think there's really only 4 options at this point. And number 1 on my list really isn't that likely, but that is Caleb Williams. Obviously, probably the only generational talent that we truly do have in this year's draft class. Coming in at 22 years old, he checks pretty much every box you would want as a franchise quarterback. But the only thing with Caleb Williams is that I really do believe this. I don't think there is no doubt in my mind that the Bears, after all the moves they made and kind of just reading all the tea leaves here, that they're going to draft Caleb Williams. And let's just say, even if they didn't want to draft Caleb Williams and they said Justin Fields is our guy, let's just be honest, would they ever risk sending Caleb Williams in the division? Probably not. I mean, that would probably just haunt Bears fans. That would haunt the Bears front office. Even if they were going to go trade for him, I just don't think it is that likely that they would be even considering sending him to any of the teams in the NFC North. So Caleb Williams, I think it's a pipe dream. I don't think it's going to happen. Just want to get my thoughts out there. But number 2 on my list, and I also don't think Jayden Daniels is too likely with this. Just mainly because I really do think he's going to be locked into that number 2 overall selection with the Washington Commanders. He is a little older. He's actually 3 draft classes older than JJ McCarthy and 2 draft classes older than a guy like Drake Maye. But my overall take on why I do believe Jayden Daniels will not be on the board if the Vikings want to trade up the number 3 overall, the Commanders. They signed Marcus Mariota this offseason, and I'm a big believer that you want to have similar play styles with your starting and backup quarterback. Mariota obviously being a kind of dual threat quarterback. Jayden Daniels, that's obviously what he does. Just kind of reading the tea leaves and kind of connecting some dots here. I really do believe, I think the Commanders are going to take Jayden Daniels at number 2 overall. Seems like he just fits with what Washington is trying to do here. So I'm going to rule him out for Minnesota, but then that leaves 2 options for the Minnesota Vikings. And I think the one that is more likely than any other quarterback to be wearing the purple and gold next season, this man right here, quarterback for the North Carolina Tar Heels, Drake Maye, who is 21 years old right now. He is turning 22 here shortly, but overall, Drake Maye, he's an absolute stud, and I do believe he has probably the best chance, or most likely chance, out of any of these quarterbacks to be the next QB1 for the Minnesota Vikings. And, we've heard reports that Kevin O'Connell and Cam, they both love what Drake Maye offers. They love him as a prospect. So I fully believe the Vikings are going to be going all in on trading up to number 3 overall, especially if Drake Maye is there. I could see the Vikings getting super aggressive in this case. But Drake Maye, you are most likely going to be a Viking. And listen, we've heard the comparison to Justin Herbert, and, it's kind of chalk analysis, but I really do believe it. I really do believe he is very similar to Herbert. And the thing is with Drake Maye, He can touch every blade of grass on the football field. He has kind of a slower release, which does concern me. He has some accuracy issues, especially on the shorter kind of intermediate routes. Like, I was watching a bunch of film on him a couple days ago. He did miss just a ton of just simple, 5-yard out routes. I was watching his Clemson tape, his worst game of the year. There are definitely some red flags with his game. But I do think if you are offering, a solid support system with one of these guys, I think that's where the Vikings could get the most out of Drake Maye. Colin Cowherd actually had a take. He said, I believe in Caleb Williams, number 1 in this year's draft class. But who I believe in second is whoever the Minnesota Vikings draft. It's because of this. You're going to be throwing to the best wide receiver in football, the best non-quarterback in the National Football League in Justin Jefferson, a young and up-and-coming receiver in Jordan Addison, who had nearly 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns in his rookie season, where he had Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, and Jaron Hall throwing the ball to him for most of the season. You also did just sign Aaron Jones, giving him probably a more stable run game. You got TJ Hawkinson, an elite tight end, one of the better ones in the league. And then this is the biggest reason here. Kevin O'Connell. If you are allowing Kevin O'Connell to just kind of sandpaper a quarterback, it's going to work out. I think Drake Maye would really end up kind of meeting his max potential in the NFL. If he does go to Minnesota, if he went somewhere else, I probably wouldn't believe in him as much. I just really do believe with these quarterbacks, it's where they land the most, or it's where they land matters probably the most here. But Drake Maye, if you're a Viking, will be throwing a party here on the channel. But number 4 for me, and this is the second most likely option for Minnesota. I believe JJ McCarthy is the second best option for the Minnesota Vikings. And I know he's a polarizing prospect. I know a lot of people don't like him, just mainly because of, the stats he put up at Michigan. They didn't really ask him to do too much with his time with the Wolverines. But you may be saying, why JJ McCarthy? We watched the college football championship game. He barely threw the ball. He had a game in the second half this season against Penn State where he threw the ball 0 times in the second half. How could a guy like that go top 5? Why are all these NFL GMs and all these NFL scouts are falling in love with the kid? Because people forget he was an elite prospect. He was a top 40 recruit in his class coming out of high school. He was a 5th-ranked quarterback coming out of IMG, and he won at every single level he has played at so far. JJ McCarthy had a record in high school of 36-2 in high school, won 2 state championships. Kick it to college, where he won also at that level. He was 29-1 as well. Obviously, quarterback stats aren't the end-all, or quarterback wins aren't the end-all, be-all for kind of judging and kind of seeing what a quarterback is all about. But I do definitely think it does matter. And also, like JJ, I would just bet on the kid winning games in the NFL. Very similar to a guy like Jalen Brunson for NBA comparison. One in high school, one in college. Very similar build, both from Chicago, actually. So I just think JJ, that matters. And plus the intangibles. Peter Schrager put out this report following the NFL scouting combine that JJ McCarthy was by far the best quarterback at the whiteboard at the scouting combine. I think that matters. We see a guy, obviously, other Michigan quarterback, Tom Brady, who made his career off that, just being more intelligent, just being more prepared than other quarterbacks. I think he's got that kind of mantra and kind of that, overall aura around him where guys will really buy in and really believe in him as being that guy. And also the unknown with JJ because, obviously Michigan didn't ask him to do a lot, but that doesn't mean he can't. Just because Michigan didn't throw the ball 40 times a game, I feel like people just automatically write it off as, oh, JJ didn't throw the ball 40 times a game. He didn't throw for 5,000 yards in college. That doesn't mean he can. Go look at his stats at IMG his senior year of high school. He was throwing the ball all over the lot. And also this narrative that JJ McCarthy can't throw the ball deep. It's just wrong. And on throws of 20-plus or more yards this season, JJ McCarthy was one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He was also the best statistical quarterback on 3rd and 6 and plus this past season in college football, and obviously that matters so much, but he was 25 of 46 on 20-plus yard throws, over 700 yards, and 10 touchdowns and 1 interception. Another argument against JJ is that JJ, he's a pocket quarterback. He just sits down there in the pocket. He hits his open receivers. Well, check this out. Completion percentage out of scrambles this season, JJ, by far the best in the national football or in college football last year at 71%. 71% out of scrambles this past season. Bo Nix right behind him. Then got Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, and Michael Penix following him there. But JJ, I think he's the second most athletic quarterback in this class behind Daniels. His speed is clearly there. He had the highest three-cone drill out of all quarterbacks in this year's class, and I think if he would have ran the 40, he would have been running in the 4.5, 4.6 marker. JJ, hell of an athlete, could definitely be an option, and I would be thrilled about the Vikings getting him. But I want you guys to grade the Vikings offseason as it stands right now. I said this on our live show. I'm giving the Vikings an A- right now. You can get an A if you trade up for a quarterback, and you'll get an A+ if you extend Justin Jefferson. It's been a great offseason for Minnesota. He signed 3 stud defensive players that have more talent to that side of the football. You also got Aaron Jones. You got a good bridge quarterback in Sam Darnold. It really just seems like everything us Vikings fans wanted out of this season, Kwesi has executed. I'm giving them an A- right now with the ability to go up and get an A+. But hey, I'll tell you what, whenever the Vikings trade up for a quarterback and trade up to number 3, number 4, number 5 overall, whatever it may be, or whenever they extend Justin Jefferson, I want to be your go-to guy. I'll make a video for you guys ASAP. So hit that subscribe button. Lock us in as your go-to Vikings YouTube channel. Seems like the Vikes are making moves. Make sure you guys are subscribed. As always, Skol Vikes.